MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and this is episode 250, 250 of the MLS Aces Podcast. And it's pretty wild that we're 250 episodes in, and in the middle of, I guess, this 250th episode, we are continuing our daily club previews heading into the 2023 MLS season. We've done a lot of these so far. We've done over 20 club previews over the last few weekdays. So if you haven't gone back and listened to the 20 plus teams we've covered, please go back, listen, check those out. If you're specifically looking for, a specific team or a few teams, whatever it may be. But obviously, we have another 3 teams in today's episode, and I'm very excited to chat with some amazing expert guests about the Galaxy, about Orlando City, and about Austin FC. Pretty much, I'm just kind of doing this small intro just to thank you guys for listening, for watching, for following along MLS Aces for 250 episodes, and we're hoping for another 250 plus and some fun, exciting things in the 2023 MLS season. So sit back, thank you guys, and enjoy another 3 teams heading into the season here. And obviously stay tuned for the rest of the teams that we're going to be finishing up previewing this week, and a quote unquote normal episode dropping this Thursday. So thank you guys, and we'll catch up with you soon. MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. We're back with another team season preview heading into this crazy 2023 MLS season that's only 25 days away at this point. Today, we are talking, arguably the greatest club in MLS history, the LA Galaxy. And here, taking that journey with me is Eli Lesser of This Week in MLS. You guys know Eli. Eli, thank you for coming back on, and thank you for talking Galaxy with me.
Yeah, no, always. You don't ever need to ask me twice to talk about the Galaxy. Half my Twitter feed is basically just Galaxy stuff. I should be This Week in Galaxy at this point. At least that's what LAFC fans say. But yeah, I appreciate you for having me on.
No, you do a great job at covering MLS in its entirety. So don't listen to LAFC fans. But we are talking Galaxy today. And let's just take a quick look back at 2022, where the Galaxy did finish 4th place in the Western Conference, back to, that top half of the playoff spot, back to the playoffs. Things are, looking good in Galaxy land so far, or so far, I guess, as of last year. You guys do exit to LAFC in that wild conference semifinal game, one of the best games of the playoffs last year. And now you're heading into another offseason under Greg Vanney, but this time with a lot of exits, right? You could have the big name exits of a Samuel Grandsir, a Kevin Cabral, a Derek Williams, and, a few other, I think, depth pieces past that. And Vanney hasn't really done much on the ends. He brings in a Chris Mavinga, one of his guys from the TFC days where you guys re-signed Jonathan Klinsmann. And I would argue Memo Rodriguez is the big offseason acquisition so far, but I'll start things off with you. How has the offseason been in your eyes?
It's been the worst offseason imaginable. To keep it completely frank, first of all, I just want to address one thing about 2022.
Yeah.
It's very funny because you had me on your show like a month before the season ended, and you asked me if the Galaxy were going to make the playoffs because we were at that point with the Galaxy, and I said no. But they ended up proving me wrong and had an incredible month, and I bought in on this team. And I thought they were legitimately going to beat LAFC because they've never lost until that time. They've never lost to LAFC twice in a row. So that made me, excited and stuff. And then LAFC won. And to me, LAFC winning has damaged so much for the LA Galaxy beyond what we ever could have imagined. A lot of Galaxy fans, and I love my Galaxy fans, but they're a little delusional with the fact that, LAFC is here. And we have to recognize that they are beating us. They are better than us. And they're doing everything that the Galaxy used to be able to do. And, they're really trying to make their statement that they are LA when, this has been the Galaxy City since the start of the league, but LAFC making a very compelling argument. And I think LAFC winning has hurt the Galaxy from a transfer standpoint as well, because LAFC is now the destination franchise. For months, in July of 2022, I was talking about how Aaron Long was a free agent this offseason and that he will sign with the Galaxy, or I was at least trying to manifest it. Yeah. Where does he go? LAFC. We've already seen this happen with Ilie Sanchez, Gareth Bale. Both guys should have been Galaxy players. They go to LAFC. And I think this offseason, a lot of the targets that the Galaxy should be going after
Mm-hmm.
or whatnot, we've heard LAFC going after them, and they weren't quite successful. I'm talking about Alberto Lee specifically.
Yep.
That's a player the Galaxy absolutely 100,000% should have signed. Mm-hmm. That should have been no question. But, you know, LAFC, they were the team that was really fighting for him. I know he didn't end up going there, but that's my point, though. It's just, it seems like LAFC is the first team that people are going to in LA, and then it's the Galaxy, but the Galaxy didn't come in with a proper offer. And it just goes to show you, first of all, just how little of a grasp the Galaxy front office has on where the league stands currently. Yeah. How little, I don't think that they don't care. A lot of Galaxy fans think that the front office doesn't care. Mm-hmm. To me, I think they are they have, how do I say this without like swearing or saying something inappropriate? They have a stick up their bum. That's where it is. They're on a high pedestal in their mind, and I think that is coming to bite the Galaxy right now. And it also doesn't help that we have literally one scout in our department. And I made a joke that, you know, this is the Galaxy are playing Football Manager, and they have their one scout scouting France and France only. But even then, why isn't Conrad De La Fuente a Galaxy player right now? These are the questions that, you know, Galaxy fans have to the front office. And yeah, it is frustrating. And I know I said I wasn't going to talk about the supporter stuff, but I understand why the supporters are, you know, protesting right now, because we are seeing the city slip. It is happening. Galaxy fans cannot avoid it. Yes. But the front office needs to do something about it, because this is the one sport where I actually root for the overdog in LA. You know, I'm a Clipper fan. I'm a Chargers fan. Yeah. And now the Galaxy are just becoming like the Clippers Chargers, that side of things, not, you know, the Lakers, although I hate the Lakers. The Galaxy were always the Lakers of MLS, and that's just not a thing anymore.
You know, not to get too bogged down on the front office when we're talking about this team, but it does matter because it is impacting where the team is right now. I feel like the LA Galaxy front office is stuck in the past, kind of stuck on what they've done, and they're not looking towards the future. Obviously, you know, also other things have gone on, giving them penalties this offseason, which has led to maybe a restricted transfer window and Greg Vanny having to take a different approach this offseason and everything like that, right? So it's been a unique offseason where after a fourth place finish in the Western Conference, I feel like as a Galaxy fan, you would want to see your team take steps forward to fight for first. And now you've taken, I wouldn't even say you've taken a step back. You just haven't taken steps. It's a lot of the same, right? A lot of these starters are the same from last year, which isn't a bad thing, but you haven't done much to improve, maybe outside of having a full season of a rookie Pooch. Sorry, I always mess up the last name. But we'll leave the front office stuff and the fan stuff there, because there's a lot of frustration, and I think it matters. But there are soccer games to be played, right? You still have Greg Vanny, one of the most notable, best coaches in Major League Soccer, leading the charge. And like I said, a lot of the same starters. So we know the back line. We know what Raheem Edwards and Julian Araujo bring. And we can talk about Julian Araujo too. But, you know, as of right now, he is still a Galaxy right back. And Raheem Edwards is still the Galaxy left back. Sega Koulibaly, Martin Caceres, Jonathan Bond. Towards the end of last year, we're one of the better defensive groups in the league. How do you feel about the defense heading? And obviously, Gaston Brugman sitting in front of them. How do you feel about the Galaxy defense heading into 2023?
I'm actually feeling pretty okay. I am going to assume that Julian Araujo is gone because, you know, even if it doesn't happen this window, he is guaranteed to leave in the summer.
Yeah.
And the Galaxy, because of their restrictions, have to find the replacement now anyways. I loved the addition of Martin Caceres. I'm glad that he actually is staying with the club, because I assumed that he was going to do a Gareth Bale.
Yes,
and, you know, he was just with the Galaxy for the World Cup. But the fact that he's bought in has been great. A lot of people want him to be the starting right back if Araujo leaves. I've always been a proponent of you start a player at their best position. If he's your best player, because to me, he's the best center back the Galaxy have.
Yes.
And because of that, he should be the starting center back, even if he is maybe the best right back option we have as well. If he is truly the best center back, he should be at center back. But there's a lot to look forward to with the back line. I think another year of Sega developing is definitely going to be great for the Galaxy. And then, you know, Jalen Neal, he's definitely going to step up this year. Vanny says he's going to play. I'm excited to see him play. Obviously, he had one mistake in the U.S. friendlies, but other than that, he looked great, and people, noticed that as well. So I'm excited to see what he brings. And I don't think the back line is the issue right now. And definitely the midfield trio is not the issue, which I'm sure you might talk next. But I think we have the best midfield trio in the league.
No, for sure. And I'm glad you mentioned Jalen Neal. Obviously, he got the January camp call-up. I think he looked good outside of that one mistake, but he's still a teenager. He's going to grow. He looks like he could be the next great center back that we've seen in Major League Soccer, great American center back we're going to see in Major League Soccer. And maybe if Julian Araujo leaves, we see a change in formation, maybe the 3-5-2, fingers crossed. We're not going to get into that, but
it won't happen, but yes, I hope so.
The midfield, right? Gaston Brugman, who I mentioned before, I think proved to be one of the better D mids in Major League Soccer after his acquisition. Marky Delgado, I mean, easily one of the best box-to-box eights, whatever you want to call them, all of last season. And then Ricky Puig, the star. I think he is, for the lack of additions, I think having a full season of him is an addition in his own right, because he changed what the Galaxy looked like and how they were performing at the end of last year. Give me a full season of that, and I feel like that could make the Galaxy top of the Western Conference if things work out well. What are your thoughts on the midfield?
I mean, the midfield, like I said before, I think they are the best midfield trio in the league. I know you can make an argument for some other clubs like LAFC. You can make that argument. I hope Jose Cifuentes leaves soon, just for my own personal sake. But
for Jose, it's all for Jose.
Yeah, all of Jose. Yeah, for Jose's sake, not my sake, right?
Yeah.
But definitely the Ricky Puig and Gaston Brugman additions during the summer, they were the game changer for the Galaxy. I don't think the Galaxy, I mean, it's obvious the Galaxy don't make the playoffs if they don't make those signings. I liked Ryan Raveloson, but he wasn't game changing. He was good for like the first 10 games and then fell off immediately. But yeah, and Mark Delgado was one of the more underrated moves of the season prior, because last season was his first season with the Galaxy. So I'm full of optimism there. I think the only problem with the midfield is we have no depth behind them, which I think Memo Rodriguez, I know you want him to be a winger. I've always seen him as a central player. Yeah. I know he can play on the wing, but I think he would be he is like the perfect backup to Ricky Puig, in my opinion, as like a number 10 or attacking 8, whatever you want to say for Greg's system. But yeah, I just think the Galaxy lack depth there. I think behind them right now is like Adam Saldana and Carlos Harvey, like the Los Dos guys, who, not quite at that level yet. I'd love to see Saldana be good. I know in 2021 he had a lot of minutes, but he was hurt and stuff, and he physically looked awful, no offense. But yeah, he definitely did not look like he was in shape, but yeah.
I mean, look, I feel like with the amount of minutes that are going to be played in 2023, some of these youngsters are going to have to get some minutes, even if it's Open Cup, right? Maybe taking that step forward for a Harvey or a Saldana or whatever, or a Jonathan Perez, which we'll get to into the attack in a second. But, Ricky Puig, game changer. I'm excited to see him for the entirety of 2023. He has the ability to be best 11 quality. If you ask me, if he performs, I think even 75% of what he did at the end of last year. Let's get to the bad part about the LA Galaxy right now. And it's not even fully bad, right? Because you bring back a Chicharito who, has found a second wind in his career. I think last time we spoke, you were thinking that he wasn't even going to be back for this season. Well, he's here. Dejan Joveljic.
I want to interrupt you for a sec. Yeah. His contract extension was triggered literally right after, like the match after we talked.
Love it. Okay, well, he's back and he's here, and I'm going to assume scoring a ton of goals again for the LA Galaxy. Hopefully that Puig Chicharito connection works out. Like I said, Dejan Joveljic, which is the joke of the 3-5-2 that I mentioned earlier before, is you guys have maybe the best two-striker option in Major League Soccer, and you don't use two strikers. So it'd be interesting to see Jovelic's maybe appearances, how many minutes he gets. Maybe there's more of a focus on one competition over another for one or two of these guys. I don't know. You have a Memo, who I do believe is a winger. You have an Efren Alvarez, who can play on the wing. I know he can play more central as well. Diego Costa still on the roster, I'm pretty sure. He's always the big question mark to me of kind of where his roster status stands. But the attack, if you want to start with the positives of a Chicha and a Jovelic, we can go from there.
Yeah, I mean, there are positives, but it's also a negative in a way, because you have two great options. You don't want to stint like Jovelic's, growth, because he is younger. He's the future of the Galaxy, as he proclaims himself, and he was amazing last year. No one scored more goals off the bench than he did. I don't think it was even close. But the problem is the who's going to feed them? Maybe a healthy Douglas Costa does it. If he could last more than 10 games without having to take like a 3-month break. And then, Efra, it's always been about, how fit is he, because he shows these amazing flashes of greatness with his left foot. But then, you can't rely on him to go a full 90 every week. And with the competition about to ramp up with Leagues Cup, Open Cup, and all of that, it's pretty scary to think that we probably have the two least fit wingers as our projected. I know you project Memo, but if it is Efra and it is Costa, we have the two least fit wingers in the league as our starting wingers. And it's so funny, because the biggest problem for the Galaxy last season were the wingers. And for a while, it seemed like the offseason was going terrific for the Galaxy, because they traded away Kevin Cabral for $1 million.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely insane. And then Grandsir left because of family issues, not because of a desire to leave, or the Galaxy wanted to move on from him. I think losing him was a pretty big one for us, just because, to me, he was an amazing bench winger. Yet he had the salary of a starter, which was concerning, and I think why the Galaxy were overall fine. I mean, they were able to make up like $900K of cap room by letting go of him, so that's huge. But the thing is, it's like the Galaxy now have all this cap room. They have this newfound GAM. They have a DP spot, which I think technically has to be used on a young DP.
Yes.
So where are those players? What are we doing? I mean, we can't bring these players in during the summer. I think I would love the Galaxy to do a domestic trade for a winger right now, just to soothe my anxiety about this club. But I just don't know what's happening, and I do feel like the Galaxy are swinging and missing behind closed doors right now. That's the only explanation to me.
Right now, for me, there is a lot of teams in Major League Soccer that have excess wingers on their roster. I know Extra Time mentioned Red Bulls. I know like Omir Fernandez and a few other guys there. There are a ton of teams that have depth at winger, and the Galaxy need to at least go out and get one. It doesn't need to be the most groundbreaking move in the world, but you need that depth, especially like you said, you trade away Grandsir, Cabral, you trade away Cameron Dunbar, who I really liked on the wing. I know he played 9 too, but I liked him as a potential wing option at this point for the team, because you're at Efra, you're at Douglas Costa, you're at Memo, you're at Jonathan Perez. You have 4 wingers, and one's a youngster, and
2 are unfit.
2 are unfit.
Not a winger.
Yeah. So there's a lot of question marks, right? And Eli, I'll wrap things up here just by pretty much saying, I think the Galaxy are fine. I think they're good. I just need to see what the rest of this offseason kind of shapes out for them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's tough to say. I mean, the Galaxy, who knows? Maybe they swing big and get a 3rd unfit winger in Isco. Like that's what I see this team trying to do at this point. Sure, we have an okay roster. I thought if we had the same squad as we did last year heading into this year, I'd feel a lot better. Personally, I think certain trades they made were like, okay, whatever. I get why they got rid of Nick DePuy, but I always thought he was much better than everyone else thought he was. Stuff like that. But, for me in the West, it has to be LAFC, LA Galaxy, Seattle, and Austin. Those are the big clubs in the West, in my opinion. And I think, there's no excuse for the Galaxy to fall behind. And I don't think they're going to make the playoffs with the squad that they have at the moment, at least depth-wise, because it's going to be a long season.
Yeah. No, for sure. Look, for me, I think the only way, if the roster stays as is, you kind of got to force that 3-5-2. Start Jalen Neal in the middle of a back three. Give me Jovic and Chicharito up top, and I'm going to love my life. But Eli Lester, this week in MLS, if you want to go for it, plug in all your stuff. I'm sure anyone who watches or listens to this knows you, follows you, watches your stuff, but go for it.
Yep. This week in MLS on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. Make sure you're following MLS Aces on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. Yeah. And also wherever this is being released, make sure you're following Tom, the Squeeze Meister. I just made that up on the spot. But, yeah.
I've heard that nickname before, and I haven't heard that since like middle school. And that just took me back. So thank you for that. Wow.
You ever watch American Pie?
Yes, I have. Okay,
for me, it's like Stifler, the Stiff Meister.
Yeah,
that's what it always like goes to. My best friend and I, we call ourselves the Meisters because of that. But and it was a middle school thing, so I feel you on that. Also, congrats, dude! You're getting married.
Yeah, as of recording today, 8 weeks away, and I want to throw up. So, yep. That's all I have to say about that.
Ain't love a beautiful thing?
I want to throw up out of nerves, not because of anything else. I'll clarify that for my fiance who may potentially listen and or watch. So
I'm a Galaxy fan,
Yeah. Exactly. Eli Lesser, thank you, Eli, for joining me, man.
MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy, and this is another quick recap into every single team going on in Major League Soccer in the 2023 season. We're almost done. We're getting close to the end, but that does not mean we can't give love to one of the teams that have, I think, one of the most exciting off seasons, Orlando City. And here to talk Orlando City with me is Gavin Rushnell, host of MLS Now podcast, also Lions Blog. If you guys know Lions Blog, everything Orlando City there as well. Gavin, thank you for coming on and talking with me a little Purple Lions down there.
Yeah, Tom, thanks for doing this. Really excited to listen to all the episodes with all the teams. Obviously, I love MLS, but appreciate you reaching out for me to talk my one true love of Orlando City.
Orlando City, I mean, I would say pretty successful year for the most part, right? In 2022 last year, 7th, making the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, not that deep of a playoff run, losing to Montreal, but you guys secured your first trophy in club history. Our two clubs came in together, NYCFC and Orlando City. So in the last, 2 years, being able to lock down our club's first trophies, very, very special moment. Obviously, you guys winning the U.S. Open Cup last year, securing your CCL spot as well. So, I mean, let's talk Orlando City, right? Because the offseason's been a little wild. We've seen a lot of talented players on the out, and initially that had me a little scared of just obviously your guys' roster and everything like that. Juan gone, Junior Urso gone, Joao Moutinho gone, Andres Pereira, Tesho Akindele, Benji Michel, Alexandre Pato, and the list goes on and on and on, right? But over the past few weeks, Orlando City's been making some exciting signings. And Martin Ojeda, Pedro Gaese re-signed, coming back. Romario Enrique, who was signed as of today, the 26th, on the U22 initiative deal. Mauricio Pereira re-signed. Rafael Santos, Felipe Martins. And again, that list can go on and on as well. So, Gavin, let's just talk kind of how the offseason you feel has gone underneath Oscar Pereira and what the OC front office has been doing.
Yeah, going into the offseason, there was a ton of work to be done and a lot of open questions. And obviously, as you started listing off all the names there going out, coming in, to the listeners, they hear all the work that had to be done. Just lots of contracts ending. So one name you didn't even mention on the list going out, obviously that's just so long, is Joao Moutinho, starting left back for the past 4 years for us. Really good. Goes over to Italy on a free transfer. Just another one of those pieces that had to go. And then coming in, You got to identify the talent. It's got to be the right price. It's got to fit within the wage structure. It's got to fit within MLS cap rules, all of that. And it's just a really dynamic puzzle that's really hard. So kudos to the front office for all the work that's going on. And it's got fans really, really, really excited. And it happens every year to Orlando fans a little bit where we get a couple good signings and we're really excited.
Yeah.
And then, you know, the season goes on. It's like, we're still kind of average. But this year, just you start to see some of the additions, Ojeda specifically and Enrique, both look like they are going to be that next level above that we had than what we had last season. So that's, I think, where the excitement is really starting to come in. Those two additions right there.
Well, you ended on Enrique and Ojeda, so let's talk attack first. We'll transition that into talking about the attack, right? You have your DP from last year that I would assume still is the starting striker in Erkin Kara. Enrique, again, I would assume being that backup 9. Again, this is all assumptions. Martin Ojeda, I would most likely believe, is going to be a starting winger on the squad. But the interesting thing to me comes down to, is your star from last year, Facundo Torres, going to play on the wing, or is he going to play in the middle of the field where we did see him excel a lot last year? So that's maybe the question mark for me is, does Facundo Torres, does he play that almost quote unquote 10 second striker, whatever you want to call it, and maybe an Ivan Angulo or a Gaston Gonzalez, who, you know, we didn't see at all last year, play on the other wing? Or is this going to be just a lot of depth, a lot of options, and we'll go through it that way? So what's your take right now on what this attack could potentially look like for Orlando City?
Yeah, so I'll cover your first question first. I like the idea of Facu in the middle, and then having either wing spot open to use Ojeda and Angulo or Gonzalez.
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to get all the best pieces onto the field, the best quality onto the field. I'm very nervous with Pareja that he will put Facu on a wing, Ojeda on another wing, Kara up top, obviously. I would agree with that as long as he's our DP striker, he will be our starting striker, which I'm fine with. And then we will see Pereira at the 10 instead of a more deeper 8 version, kind of that link between the attack and the defense, building up that play, getting the ball to the attackers. I'm worried that we're going to see him at the 10 and then 2 more defensive midfielders, because Pareja is very structured. He likes to make sure that his defense is intact and then you hit on the counter. And he got a ton of backing since the new ownership has come in 2021 in the Wilfs, who are also the owner of the Minnesota Vikings. The Wilf family, actually, as of today, all 3 DP slots, all U22 slots are filled with signings from the Wilfs, from the new ownership. So they've come in and really backed the manager. And I'm worried that Pareja's not going to take full advantage, because the names you listed off again, Angulo, he's probably in the desired future state of the attack, would be the backup option. And Gaston Gonzalez, who we spent a couple million on before for signing him last season, he obviously tore his ACL right before joining us in his last game for his parent club, which was devastating for last season. So I would see Gonzalez on the left, Facu in the middle, Ojeda on the right. Ojeda's more of a winger to me than a attacking midfielder, just looking at his highlights, and I've watched a game of his as well. He looks real exciting. And then Kara up top with that fierce competition of Enrique behind him, who looks more mobile, very exciting, and will press, will make runs, and will just be a nuisance and a really good bench option. That would be my preferred front 4, but I can't sit here and say confidently that will be our front 4, knowing who our manager is, and that's just who he is. Like, I'm not saying like he needs to go and that he's going to ruin everything. We could be fine and not have that front 4, but that's my worry.
Just the reality, right? And look, when I make my MLS depth charts for every team, because I've said it before on some of these other previews, I'm an MLS nerd. I make my own depth charts and I get myself prepared that way. I have, Facundo Torres at the 10, and then obviously, that line that you were mentioning up top with Pereira being, maybe like a playmaking 8 type of deal. And I think he excelled at that last year. I think he almost improved his game and improved the Orlando City midfield when he was doing that last year. Again, my brain goes to NYCFC. I almost view it as when Maxi kind of dropped back a little bit and Santi Rodriguez was playing that 10, and the NYCFC midfield was just clicking, right? It's literally is the same exact thing. And Cesar Araujo, the other midfielder, kind of rounding things out for this team. I mean, one damn hell of good of a signing, right? Like this U22 kid, like he easily was one of the better D mids in Major League Soccer last year 1. And we don't usually see that from someone so young coming into the league, like right away.
Yeah, and just to give some context on the player himself, he's kind of grown up he's one of those players that's like grown up knowing, or his goal has been to like be a professional player. Yeah. And like his family has helped him really prepare for that. So he's got a really calm head on his shoulders. He's got a great work ethic, a great family, and he's just come in and worked, and he completely just stole the spot from Sebastian Mendez. Mendez was probably close to one of our most consistent players in 2021, to the point where when he came off from injury, you could see the difference in the team. And in 2022, we were like, oh, we have Araujo and Mendez. And it was like, nah, we have Araujo, because he just made that spot his own. So that's a great shout for Araujo. He has been just such an amazing player, and hopefully he sticks around for the whole season. That's what Orlando City fans are thinking, that he could be gone in the summer window.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously his game helps bolster a defense, bolster a back line that, I think as of right now, knock on wood, everyone stays healthy. We can say is a very good back line for this Orlando City squad. Obviously, re-signing Gaese, having him in net is huge, is majorly important, because the dude, it's his nickname, right? He has 8 arms and he saves everything. The center back pairing of a Robin Janssen and Antonio Carlos, you throw in a Rodrigo Schlegel, again, a very nice core of 3 center backs that we've seen do it. They've played with each other and they know how each other flow. Not too worried there. My question for you is about the fullbacks, right? Because you have 2 new left backs and a Luca Petrasso coming over from TFC and a Rafael Santos coming from Brazil. And then on the right side, you have 2 very talented youngsters. I feel like it's either of theirs opportunity to take a starting spot if they both want it, as well as a Kyle Smith who can play a little center back, can play a little left back, can play a little right back, and just kind of do it all. So let's start with the fullbacks, and then we'll work our way in. What's your take right now on that fullback situation for Orlando City?
Yeah, so I'll start on the left, where it's going to be a lot easier. Just by both the profiles that came in, we brought in Luca Petrasso, exciting homegrown talent from Toronto FC, broke out last year into the first team as a left winger, and then kind of got moved back into the left back position. I like him a lot, but more attacking left back. And then Rafael Santos from Brazil, bouncing between Division 1 and Division 2 of Brazil through looking at his history. And again, very attacking. You look at the highlight reels, it's crosses, it's taking corners, it's taking people on. It's that type of left back. So we can assume the left back is going to be the more attacking of the fullbacks. On the right side, which is where Orlando City fans are chewing their nails the most, are having the most anxiety, is that there's not a lot of trust in Kyle Smith. I personally like him. I think we haven't been using him appropriately. He's not a left back. He's been our backup left back for like 3 seasons now behind Joao Moutinho, and he's just not good over there. On the right, he's much more comfortable. And since the left side is going to be up more, I think Kyle Smith should start the season at right back, since he will be more of that third center back when we build into that 3-2-5 formation that all teams do nowadays when they're in attack. And then in defense, he will cover that right side fine. But the noises out of the club are they're going to give Mikey Halliday a chance. He's the one that seems to be really highly rated. 19 years old. He's been involved in the youth national team setup for quite a while. I think he was playing for the Olympics team or something like that. I don't keep up with youth national team really. But some sort of competition that just went on, he was involved in. He's been around for a couple seasons now. Played some minutes last season. Played some minutes the season before, not a lot, but very, very fast player. So similar to Juan in that aspect. So he's a speedster lookout. He just needs to control the ball better. It's really his first touch that's been letting him down when he's played. He just seems too jittery, which is obvious when you're 17 and you're playing your first few minutes as a professional. I'm hoping he'll calm down a bit this season with the belief that's going to be put in him. Mm-hmm. He has a huge chance to make that position his own and really break out. And the club are really impressed. So there's that. And then the third option is Alex Freeman, who there's a lot of hype around, 18 years old, also involved in the youth national team setup. A lot more hype than Halliday, actually. When
I was going to ask you,
broader.
I follow the youth national team a little bit, right? I'm not as heavy as some of these other guys and girls out there, but Halliday and Freeman are always involved in the youth national team right back pool, and they play on the same club team, they play on the same youth national teams. Is there one right now that is club wise viewed better than the other, or is it really this is a competition? You guys are going to be playing for that starting spot this early season, and also a lot of minutes to eat up too this year.
I think it's definitely an open competition between the three, Smith, Freeman, and Halliday. I think it's a very real possibility come the end of the season we see Freeman and Halliday. Not in that order, sorry. Halliday and then Freeman.
Got it.
And then Smith as backup. And again, I like Kyle Smith. It just depends how we use the position, really. If we're trying to use an attacking outlet there, definitely not Smith.
Yeah. He did have that one banger outside the box last year.
That's it. Yep.
Don't remember who it was against, but I remember watching that game. I don't know why I'm a big fan of Kyle Smith. I was like, let's go, Kyle.
Yeah. Man, he's awesome. I love Kyle Smith. It's just he's just not the best attacking outlet for us. But I would say Halliday and Freeman have open range at it. I don't think we sign a right back. I think let's give them their opportunity, man. They're young. Let them battle it out. And I think fullbacks in MLS in general are places where you can are a really good spot to put a kid. Because they're not in the spine of the team, and they kind of have that they're covering the right or left side of the pitch, where if they make a mistake, that doesn't automatically equal goal. So I think that's a good place to start a youngster.
Right. Gavin, I give you this one final question. This is how I've been wrapping up all these conversations for the most part. Is there a topic, a player, a storyline, anything of that sort that we haven't talked about tonight, or I haven't asked you about, that you feel like if you're listening to this, you're not an Orlando City fan, or if you are an Orlando City fan, you really want to hear about or know about heading into 2023?
Yeah. Offense, because last year we thought we had the new DP striker, we had Facundo Torres, we had Pereira, who's our other DP attacker, and Benji Michel, who obviously left. We were like, our offense can be great. And then we scored, I was looking at it earlier today, 44 goals. That is one more goal than RSL last season, who everyone was saying was pretty poor offensively. So it's we were pretty poor offensively too. So I'd say offense specifically. And the second kind of thing would be home form, because we were 9-8 at home. 8 losses at home is ridiculously terrible. That needs to be fixed, but offense, fix that. Everything else will take care of itself. So keep an eye on the offense. If we're still struggling, don't be surprised to see something happen with the coaching situation.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's going to be exciting to follow Orlando City. A lot of changes, a lot of potential big-time players coming into this first team, and we'll see how they build off of a trophy last year. Well, Gavin Rushnell, host of the MLS Now podcast, covering all things Major League Soccer, obviously Orlando City stuff, Lions blog. Gavin, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time.
Tom, really appreciate you having me on. Great chat, and can't wait to listen.
MLS Aces Podcast. This is your host, Tom Sweezy. We are talking through my final team preview heading into the 2023 season. We're talking Austin FC, and who else would I be talking Austin with except for Katie Goodman from the Our Cup of Tea podcast, also the sports analyst over at the San Antonio Sports Star. Katie, how are you? It's good to see you again.
I'm good. Thanks for the intro, and thanks for having me back. I've always enjoyed coming out on this podcast, and good stuff.
No, of course, and we always enjoy having you and talking Austin with you. But let's talk a little bit about Austin last year, right? Very good year. We had you on last year talking all the positives, and a Western Conference final trip is nothing to, bat your eyes at, because for year two of Austin FC, things changed complete 180. And, I think you guys took major steps last year, and now it's about kind of maintaining that and moving forward into 2023. But obviously with any MLS offseason, you see departures, you see arrivals. Some of the key departures for Austin: Ruben Gabrielson going back to Europe, Moussa Djite loaned back to France, Felipe Martins, Washington Carozzo, guys like that, kind of some other depth pieces exiting the Austin FC roster, but coming in a Giassi Zardes and Adam Lundqvist, Amro Tarek coming back to Major League Soccer, some re-signings, some youth signings as well. It's been a very interesting offseason for Austin FC. So I'll keep it high level, and I'll keep it with the offseason. How has the offseason been in your eyes?
They just recently suffered a near loss to Philadelphia, but that to me isn't necessarily a sign that they're not going to be able to carry it into the oncoming season. It's very different going into this season because they have a target on their back. Everybody, last season they were kind of able to scoop by that first half of the season. People didn't really see them coming. By the time the second half of the season came on, then they started getting a little bit more of a target on their back, still underestimated, I think. And now coming into the season, there's zero underestimation for them. So, but when you look at it, Philadelphia is a fantastic team. I think a lot of people picked Philadelphia to win the MLS Cup this past season. And so, just the fact that they were able to kind of go toe-to-toe with them, just a single point differential, I think is really good. You have some new guys who got some, goals on the sheet there in that game. So that's good. That means things are kind of working in that way with the new people. Now, something from last season that I felt like they had a bit of a shortcoming with was not their offense, it was their defense. I think they needed to look into a different center back pair, in my opinion. I think there was a lot of holes between the center backs and the back line, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I'm not going to put all of that on the center backs, as we know. But the center backs do command the back line, and that includes not letting your outside backs get too far away or disconnected, which happened a lot for Austin. And so, it was surprising to me to see them bring in so much offensive power and not as much defensive power. But they did bring in some new center backs. So yes, I'm excited to see them and what they do. I'm hoping that they're the missing piece. But I feel like they're just going to be so stacked up top between Zardes, Rigoni, Drusi. It's just no wonder they put Djite on loan. It's like, poor guy. He's amazing, but where does he fit amongst those guys, So I understand why they'd put him on loan. But I also hope that they're not also just stacking purely with finesse, because what Djite brought to the table was that physicality. He's a big guy, and whenever things were breaking down and you just needed to put a body on someone in the attacking third, he was the guy to do it. So I just hope that there's someone else with that kind of mindset and presence and physical stature who can really do that.
Well, I do think you guys did bring in a physical MLS experience guy in a Giassi Zardes, right? USMNT, hated, loved player, but I always have a soft spot in my heart for Giassi, because really he just does bring a lot of positivity, and he brings a ton of goals to a team as well, right? So you pair Giassi with, a striking room that also has a Maxi Urruti, Diego Fagundes, Sebastian Driussi, and, hopefully we see steps forward from Rigoni in 2023 as well. I know some people weren't the biggest fan of him in 2022, but, sometimes it takes time for these guys to come to the U.S., adjust to the playing style and everything like that. So I think the attack is something that is going going to be absolutely on fire in 2023. Is there anything that you're seeing or anything that kind of stands out to you about this attack heading into a new season?
No, I mean, the only thing is just all the changes. I feel like it could be an entire episode on its own of all the changes. I took 3 pages of notes just to keep track of who came in and who left. But I'm excited to see these younger players. They got a first round draft pick. What's his name? Valentin Noel. Yeah, well, Valentin Noel, first round, but 20th pick from St. Louis City. And, so I think he's going to be really good. He's French. There's a couple of kids, Jackson Walty, Salvatore Mazzafenro, or I'm probably butchering that. But what I'm saying is, there's a lot coming in. What you were seeing from them is developing their youth. There's also an Austin FC 2 now in the USL. So that's going to be really good. A lot of those younger players have been called up to U17, U18, U.S. men's national team, including Owen Wolf being one of them getting called up. So, you can kind of see them mapping out their long-term success, which I love to see from an organization, because you want to see this team not just have one lucky year, right? You want them to continue to be this powerhouse. And I think they've also picked up on that, and they know exactly what goes into being a continued powerhouse. So I'm excited to see that. I'm wondering if the formations are going to be the same, considering you've got Zardes and Rigoni in the mix. You had Finlay on a wing, you had Fagundes on the wing. I'm wondering if they're going to keep those wingers, because they're so good at that. They're so good as wingers, and it just makes me wonder how people are going to kind of shift and move around that they still have. Rigoni, going back to him, he reminds me a lot of, when Gareth Bell came over to LAFC, who was just kind of, stunned, it seemed like, for a really long time. Yeah, he got a couple good ones on us, but for the most part, I think when you come from a different level and then you come into the MLS, it's just such a different ball game that it's hard to adjust. And so I really am hoping that now that he's had some time under his belt to get used to it, that it's going to be a very different season for them.
Let's jump to where you said you had some areas of concern before in the defense. Obviously, Brad Stuver, the rock in net, where he's an MLS veteran. We've seen what he can do. He's put this team on his back at times, and I think he's a fantastic goalkeeper. The back line does have some changes. Nick Lima, though, Julio Cascante, they're back. It looks like they're maybe penciled in starters as of right now, but there are some changes to the rest of it. I'm gonna probably mispronounce his last name, and I apologize, but Leo Väisänen, to me, from what people have said, he could be the Ruben Gabriel replacement, like for like almost. And then obviously Adam Lundqvist coming into that left back room. So how are these changes going to potentially affect the Austin FC back line?
I'm really looking forward to that. Those were the 2 players that coming in, I thought, okay, so there's a chance that, there's going to be a change, whether it's good or bad. Thing is, I haven't seen them play. I don't know what they can do yet, so I can't speak to that. But yeah, you do have, Nick Lima. You also have, I'm blanking on his name, Scotch-Irish lad.
Oh, John Gallagher.
Yeah, Gallagher. Yeah, yeah, him on the left. I had a lot of criticism for him last season, but he really did, both criticism and kudos, because he's one of those players who was originally a forward, so he gets up in the attack really well. Sometimes he just doesn't pinch back in the way he needs to, but because he's so involved in the attack, it created a lot of awesome opportunities for a transition. So you want a player like that. It's just maybe working on also getting tucked back in at times. There was a lot of times, or just maybe pressuring the incoming attack a little differently, pressing them to the outside versus letting them come into that inside pocket and making it a little more difficult for your center back. So there's a lot at play, right? And those are the kind of things I'm talking about. I felt like Nick Lima was always very consistent. He was that kind of strong man on the back line. It was always just one of those rowdy guys who's just hard to get past.
Yeah.
And like I said, it always falls on the center backs. And I've always said that the center backs are some of the most intelligent players on the field because they have to react so quickly and with precision. And all of the play development starts with the center back when you're building out of the back for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I'm just really looking forward to, there being a player back there who brings that kind of not only leadership but soccer IQ and obviously that height and physicality. And I know the guys that they're bringing in, obviously for center back, are 6 feet plus, so that's good. So yeah, long story short, I don't know how they're gonna do, but I'm really hoping it's gonna be good.
Well, I will say I was a fan of Adam Lundqvist in Houston. I think he does bring something a little bit different than a Gallagher or a Komanic, right, at that left back spot. So I think he's the MLS experience guy you brought in, maybe similar to Nick Lima on that right side. So I'm very excited about that. And I know we're a little pressed for time, but I will just throw out there that, I'm hoping Danny Pereira can take that next step up in 2023. Alex Ring can do what Alex Ring does, and Austin can get back to a Western Conference final, maybe more in 2023. Katie, thank you for joining me. I want to let you plug whatever you want to plug. Go for it. I've been seeing you on the sidelines working for ESPN too. So, you're doing a lot out there.
Yeah, I'm doing a lot. And it's to the point where it's probably going to take another 2 minutes just to explain it. So if you want to figure out or listen in on anything I'm doing, I'm Katie Goodman is my handle. I think you can probably see it here on the StreamYard. Just I am and then KatieGoodman if you're listening. And that's the same on Twitter and Instagram. And I post my entire life story there. So that's where you can find me.
Sounds good. Well, guys, if you're watching this, listening to this, make sure you follow Katie. Katie, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Have a good one.